And as inspired by the topic, I guess you can say, or the ideas that you just mentioned, I've kind of gone down a thought pathway of the ideal approach to living in a sense of fulfillment and meaning. And I want to hear your thoughts on this, because I figured in this world of superabundant stimuli, the best thing you can do is set a really high goal for yourself, like the most difficult thing you can imagine yourself achieving in life. And that would require somebody to sit down and really think, okay, what do I want to do? What am I here for? Like, what is the most difficult thing I can imagine myself achieving? And then relentlessly pursuing that goal. Like, what is the most difficult thing? And not just that, but also the greatest good that can also be accomplished with a great challenge, right? Like, personally, I think like in medical school is very challenging, but it's also very rewarding insofar as how you can use that knowledge to impact patient populations. Does that make sense? Like, my personal example would have been like striving to become a physician, because it's extremely difficult and it's a very good goal to strive for. Does that make sense? Because it gives you something to run towards, something to run away from.
Yeah, I think setting a goal that gives us purpose and meaning, a reason to get up in the morning, structures our lives, requires discipline, but is laid out with a series of smaller goals that make it achievable.
Yes.
I think that's really important. You don't want to set goals that are so kind of grandiose that you just kind of get a sense of learned helplessness because you don't feel like you're progressing toward that goal. You can take a very big goal, and as long as you can break it up into small and achievable milestones, I do think that's really important for a thriving life. A sense that, yes, I can do this, and I'm a competent person, and, I can strive for this, and I can, pursue it. I think there's a potential danger there where we can be kind of too goal-oriented, and sort of too hard on ourselves. So these are all things, in moderation. And we obviously want to be humble in our striving for goals too, and recognize that we can have all these plans and set all these goals and work really hard. And sometimes in life, it still doesn't work out. And so kind of bringing a humility and a recognition that, the best laid plans of mice and men, it doesn't always go our way. And so we kind of also need a framework for coping with those kinds of uncertainties or, unexpected sort of, curveballs that life throws.
Right. Thank you for helping me articulate that. But basically, to live a thriving, successful life in the modern day, the best approach you can take, more or less, is avoid immediately pleasurable stimuli. Set a meaningful goal that is difficult, that you can break down into different segments, so to speak, and pursue that. That can kind of help offset the abundant stimuli world.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's the basic idea, that if we're really going to leverage, really the neuroscience, but really what it is what the neuroscience is validating that people have been saying for centuries, right? Which is, that we have to really work for our rewards.
Yes.
And we have to delay our gratification, and we have to be patient, and we have to be trusting that with working hard every day, we will get to our goal. And that's really, from an evolutionary perspective, also how we were wired, or how we evolved, right? We did not evolve to do no work for like huge rewards, which is the world we live in now, right? We just sit on the couch, swipe right, swipe left. We can sort of have it all. But really, our brains and our bodies were evolved to move in an environment and work and seek out rewards using our brains and our bodies. And that has to be kind of an enacted cognition. And it's no coincidence that dopamine is not only important for reward and incentive salience and motivation, it's also really important for movement, right? So the same neurotransmitter that lets us have movements and, reach out for whatever we are trying to get, that's also dopamine, right? And those two things are linked. So that's especially relevant today in this world in which so many of us are spending so much time, in the metaverse, right? Where we're having this kind of disembodied cognition and we're not living in our bodies.